We just have Tim Swanson join us. Hello, Tim.
Hey guys, great to be here. Thanks for the invitation, David, and everybody else.
Tim is here to talk about the blockchain 2.0, and I'd like to turn that over to David, and then I'll just chime in with questions because David was the one who actually told me about the blockchain 2.0. So you want to take over, David?
Yeah. Basically, I just got a lot of questions regarding it because all of the technicalities is a bit too complicated for me to grasp the entire picture of it. So it would be great if you could present the idea of the blockchain 2.0 and how it will affect Bitcoin.
Sure, okay. So again, blockchain 2.0 is just a filler name. They haven't announced the actual name yet. Give you guys a background if you haven't seen it. Austin Hill, he's a VC who worked in the space about 15, 20 years ago with the original Cypher Hacker guys. And he's working with Adam Back, who invented Hashcash, as well as a few other developers. I don't know any specific names involved besides those two. But what they've done is they figured out a way to use, it's called a two-way pegging system, to allow basically, let me back up this a slight bit. They're working with merge mining, this technique like Namecoin uses, and atomic transactions to move between these merge mine chains. They're calling them side chains. The side chains actually aren't new. Actually, all the stuff that they're talking about in this announcement have been discussed openly for basically 6 months. It's just putting it all together in a company is the new part. And the announcement was, like I said, it was yesterday, and it's gonna. I think it'll impact a lot of the 2.0 space, especially like Ethereum, because what they want to do is with these side chains, they want to enable like smart contracting and user-created assets, HFT, a more robust scripting language. I'm not sure if it's necessarily going to be Turing complete. So you have these competing side chains, but they're all unified using the Bitcoin main as a kind of a transactional currency. I don't know too many specific details other than they're going to use a two-way pegging system, and I don't know the actual specifics on how that technically works. There's a thread I linked to in the article I wrote with Greg Maxwell explaining it, and apparently it's been signed off. This method that they're going to do has been signed off by several other core devs. And I don't know exactly how it'll impact NXT per se. It's just going to be more competition for you guys in an organized manner. I mean, these guys have funding. They have shipped products before. So it's not like another, you know, no offense to BitShares, but it's not like BitShares. So I hope everyone, I hope everyone survives. No, look, it's just, you know, there's so much talk in this space, not enough shipped code, and these guys at least have a proven track record of actually, you know, shipping production code. So, any questions?
Okay, that was a very okay. Let's have a question from Ty first.
So what makes this so exciting and such a big thing in the crypto world right now, Tim? Other than the fact that it's coming from a group of guys that has been proven to produce code and products before.
Sure. Yeah, I think the biggest issue is the fact that they're going to continue using ASICs, and you're going to have these shareholders of Bitcoin are going to want to promote this. So what's happened is in the last year you've seen, you know, about 8 projects spring up, or, you know, I guess the last 18 months you have 8 projects, and it's moved mindshare away. You know, you guys are taking mindshare away to a different system, and as a result, those who hold Bitcoin are torn, right? They're like, oh, I like this new idea of NXT, but I have these assets, and I want the assets to appreciate in value. By creating new utility with the actual system itself currently, it's actually going to be easier for them to evangelize. Basically, this created a whole pile of evangelists for their new product. And once people, especially the anti-altcoin crowd, learn about how this system works, they'll be all about promoting it. And so I'm not saying that this exactly will happen tomorrow, but there's a built-in incentive for those who hold Bitcoin to promote this product because it benefits them 100% by bringing more utility, more developers back into the space around the existing ASIC frames infrastructure.
So basically, it's easier for people to promote it because they already have a stake in Bitcoin.
Yeah, like there's no downside to it, but like people telling, like they're like, oh, this is a 2.0 system we could believe in because it benefits us. And I'm not saying that's going to be the selling point, but as a Bitcoin holder, if you hold any amount, this is a great way to increase the potential utility of your own system and therefore the price appreciation of your token.
Okay.
Because in order to use these sidechains, you'll necessarily have to use Bitcoin tokens initially to move between, so therefore it creates more demand for the underlying asset.
So just to make sure I understand correctly, you're saying that these side blockchains are able to connect into the Bitcoin blockchain, and so that the Bitcoin tokens or currency can flow between these different blockchains?
Essentially, yes. They don't actually move to the other chain. They're in Adam Back's terms, they're firewalled off, and it's done through an atomic transaction. So if you guys aren't familiar with atomic transactions, the easiest example would be if you're trying to register for a flight. When you click your seat, you either get the seat and the time, or you don't. There's no like you get half and half. All right, so it's you just transfer all the way, and it's a known property within this crypto ledger space, and that's what they're going to try to do to move between these chains.
All right. The name blockchain 2.0. Could you clarify that so that the viewers know exactly that the difference between that and the cryptocurrencies 2.0 like Next, so
Sure.
that there's no confusion there? Because the term 2.0 makes it sound like it's an altcoin, and from your article on Let's Talk Bitcoin, it does not appear that this is an altcoin. This is part of Bitcoin.
Absolutely, yeah. So that was their own term. They call it blockchain 2.0, I think because they want to say, hey, we're going to have these features of 2.0 that these alts have, but we're not an alt. They're not creating, in their words, they're not creating another scarcity, scarcity chase, scarcity war, because no new bitcoins are created. You're just going to create these side chains, and these side chains will create this extensibility. Like I said, you have smart contracts, user-created assets. So yes, they aren't technically an alt. They are just an extension to the existing code base, and this is where it's interesting because since he's hired core devs and the core devs work on Bitcoin main, it's been, I think it's an easier way for them to actually get what they want to have done. It's actually really smart. You'll have people I know complaining about this is not fair, blah blah blah. It's just the way the system is. So.
When you say that people will complain that it's not fair, what exactly is not fair about it?
Sure. So I'm not sure if you saw the counterparty fight about 2 weeks ago between a couple of core developers and counterparty, and so there was a feature non-feature called op return, which was announced in October by Gavin Andreessen, and he said, hey, we're gonna have this 80-byte hash, and you can do extra stuff with this hash, like a distributed contract. And right before 0.9 of Bitcoin D was released, they actually reduced it to 40 bytes. And there's no actual technical. I mean, they did give technical reasons, like, hey, this wasn't supposed to be used for. It was supposed to be used for ECDSA keys, right? But in the long and the short, there's really no big difference between holding 40 bytes versus 80 bytes. And so, based on the emails I've gotten in the last couple of days, I've had some people, since I'm in contact with different groups, they're like, oh, this is not fair. That was a conflict of interest. The reason they reduced it is because they're working on another competing project. So that's the only reason I'm saying, people might complain is they could be seen as conflict of interest. I'm not saying there is. Again, I try to be as diplomatic as possible. I think it's cool to have more competition in the space, but that's the comment I was referring to.
Okay. You have any other questions, David? Bass?
I'm just wondering, do you have any opinion on how it will affect Mastercoin differently from Counterparty and NXT?
Sure. So there's a difference between what they have on paper and what they've announced, as well as what they'll actually execute on. So again, there's no shipped code. You just have some really, really clever, smart guys who understand this stuff. And so immediately, I don't see it necessarily impacting anybody. It's just going to make everyone want to work faster because you see this competitive force coming right at you. Long term, if they can execute on this, obviously, I think it will move mindshare back to square one, which was the the Bitcoin community. So I could be wrong, but I think this could affect Mastercoin and Counterparty in the long run. But this is assuming that they execute what they've mentioned.
Well,
I've been reading the article during your talk, the one that was linked in the sidebar. As far as I see, they're trying to do the same things as a lot of 2.0s, yes, and at the same time keep the network that is already there. Try to get that in from the start, instead of the other, like us and the other 2.0s who are building. Is that basically what's happening here?
Yeah, in a way, they want to just take these cool ideas everyone else has been working on,
yeah,
and create a method to where, hey, we already have all this capital. Like ASICs, we all agree ASICs, there's so much dead weight there, right? There's no use of, after you have 50% of the hash rate, it's this extra protection. So how can we bring back utility to do actual other things with this network? That doesn't actually solve the overhead. You still have overhead, but it does solve the fact that Bitcoin only, tracks one particular asset, for one particular thing. So if they can integrate all these other different features in an experimental fashion where it doesn't affect Bitcoin main, then it's really a brilliant idea. I'm not necessarily endorsing it. It's just really cool looking at how they actually trying to approach this.
Yeah. Well, it's not that I'm always interested in these things. The first knee-jerk reaction of all these things is to say, oh, it's competition. But one of the things that I find in all these projects is that competition works. As you say, it gives everyone an incentive to see where they are and what their deadlines are at the moment. So, yeah.
Yeah, sure,
I
totally agree. Uh-huh.
I think that based on what you're saying, Tim, when they have the core developers involved from Bitcoin, I think that lends a lot of credibility to their project. And the fact that you claim that they have produced results before, that gives further claim to their project over the other cryptocurrency 2.0s. So.
Yeah, again, I'm not necessarily endorsing them, but they went the right approach. I just finished writing a paper on this and explaining how you have this unused asset, these volunteers who are really smart and really skilled. And there's not, no offense to you guys in here, but there's not many people who could actually build a blockchain. Like if I was going to put you in a room and say, hey, build a blockchain, and you can't use anybody else. So you have this scarce labor that is not being rewarded. And so, if you have that ability, you want to be rewarded for that. So you create a 2.0. Well, this is a way, hey, I see these valuable people. I'm going to hire you. And since you already have this inside knowledge, let's just get you to work on the system as it is. So I think it's a brilliant coup. I have to, give them a round of applause for thinking of it.
Well, would you say that will likely drain talent away from the cryptocurrencies 2.0s like Nex or Ethereum or any of the other 2.0 currencies?
I'm not sure if you'll see necessarily, like Daniel Larimer leave, or BitShares or Vitalik leave Ethereum, but I think people who may have gone to work with them, either in a volunteer capacity or actual, business capacity, that they might reconsider that and, begin to work on this other project. So that's just, my assumption going forward. I don't know if that will be the case.
Any input, Graviton?
No, I'm fine.
No? Okay.
Okay, so I just got a quick question. Are the transactions going to be confirmed faster than Bitcoin?
Yeah, great question. So each sidechain it looks like won't have any actual new blocks. It'll be fee-based. So basically, I'm not sure how the timings will work, but there was a question that Adam Levine asked these guys, and they said, hey, look, Initially, it's just going to be kind of like the Namecoin merging, but they want to basically create HFT capabilities to where they can do tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of transactions per second, so faster timings. I don't know exactly how they'll do that with a merge mining process. You know, I've read the different forums posts. Like the longest one I recommend people read through is from Killer Storm about 7 months ago on Bitcoin Talk. And Killer Storm's actually Alex Murstahi, who's the lead dev of Colored Coins, and he posts, you know, how merge mining can work, and you could do different types of cool things with it. And so to answer your question, you know, technically, apparently there's a way to actually do faster confirmation times and faster transactions per second.
What happens if some a cryptocurrency 2.0 like Nex comes out and they're able to exceed these transaction speeds that everyone is dreaming of?
Wow, I think Visa would call you up and hire you all. So, like, one of the hardest problems, and this is not to, you know, to knock on the community, but in a decentralized system, you're going to have some overhead because you have all these different you know, systems going at the same time. In a centralized system, it typically is easier to do these confirmation times because you know exactly which nodes you're going to go at. I think NXT actually has a smart idea in the fact that you guys RNG to a specific forger, right? That's how you guys do this. So that's pretty clever. If you guys could somehow speed up the block timings significantly, you might be able to compete at some point. But you know, if you just look at the amount of volume and how much it costs for that transaction, the actual transaction costs for Visa are like 0.0005 cents or something. It's just itty bitty per transaction. You know, obviously there's a lot of other middle players that take different pieces of it. But the idea that you could actually compete with Visa, you might end up having just to create a facility like Visa, and that kind of defeats the purpose of being decentralized, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've seen that already. That's not a new issue. So I wish you guys good luck. By the way, you know, if you guys could do timings like them, that'd be really cool.
Yeah, that's what they're currently working on. So we'll see how it goes. You know, it's one thing to say it, but it's another thing to actually produce code that produces those results. So, what keeps a blockchain like the Nex blockchain from merging with the Bitcoin blockchain with this blockchain 2.0? Is that even possible, or is that something that's so far-fetched that, you know, we shouldn't even talk about it? Or
sure, the most important thing people should be aware of with merge mining is you have to get the mining pools on board, because, you know, again, consensus is reached through the mining network, and they're going to reject code that's not profitable to them. So what you would have to do, and this is what Austin Hill said in his interview, is they've contacted mining pools to get them on board. I don't know how they did that. I'm not sure how many mining pools are on board. But if you don't have them on board, you'll have a problem with 51% attacks. So, like, that's what happened. There's, you know, 2 years ago, Coiled Coin was attempting to do a merge mining without getting these guys on board, and Iliagis, which is Luke Jr.'s pool, they did a 51% attack, knocked him out. So, you know, you really have to get these guys, and you have to give them an incentive to actually, you know, cycle through your code in a sense. And you know, as a proof of stake, there's no mining really involved. Although I just saw someone pointed to some NXT mining site. I don't know what to think of it, but that's, you know, has nothing to do with this right now.
Yeah. Okay. That's all the questions I have for now. Unless any of you guys have other questions for Tim.
Well, it's one of the things that's not the technical part, but it's one of the things I was asking earlier about. Basically, you're also this 2.0 is also profiting from the fact that there's already a big community behind it. One of the things that all the new 2.0 have a problem with is building community. And getting to getting to some form of critical mass. you're already saying this also with the 51% problem. If you don't have critical mass, you die. That's probably what happens in the whole. What's your view on that? In this is also about the diluting of all these projects together. If we have now 4, 5, what's the way to go in this? Is the way working together, sharing things, etc.? No idea.
Sure. Yeah. So again, I don't have the best idea for you. I have one idea that you could possibly look at. So you saw what happened with Oculus. People donated $250,000 worth of money to Indiegogo, and then they were bought, and they didn't receive any kind of equity. And if it hadn't been for the $250,000, they wouldn't have been able to succeed to get to that point, right? Mm-hmm. So one way to get around that in the future is through crowd equity. Basically, the Oculus could have issued some shares, and they could have done this in a cryptographic manner. There's 2 projects that I'm aware of that are trying to do this. Join My IPO, which is through Amos. He's one of the guys on the Colored Coins team. Basically, they issue these dividends or shares in through the Bitcoin ecosystem, and they use a Colored Coin wallet to track it and stuff like that. Another one that I've been actually trying to help out a little bit is Let's Talk Bitcoin Coin. It's ltvcoin.com, and basically they want to do the same thing for content. Like Huffington Post doesn't pay their bloggers, and yet they benefit from the traffic from it. So one way they could do this is they could say, hey, if you post content or you post a comment, we will give you a token, right? So it creates this desire to actually improve on the system. There's obviously ways to game it and stuff like that. But what some of these 2.0 projects can do, including those, NXT, since you guys are still relatively young, maybe in addition to doing bounties, you could say, hey, if you're producing this stuff, here's a % of equity. Now, it's harder to do since you've already launched, but like Ethereum, this is something I've been trying to tell them about. Is like, dude, if you guys, they have, by the way, like 60 founders, like founder shares now. Like there's up to 60 people who are receiving these things. And that eventually could cause conflict, because what if you've done just as much as your number 61 and you somehow lost out, right? Mm-hmm. So you want to create people, you want to create this buy-in, you want to create an incentive to get people to actually want to continue reinforcing this. So doing some kind of crowd equity might be a way to get people on board. I don't know how you do it after you've already begun shipping like you guys have. That's something we could talk about that later if you'd like. But yeah, these are good questions. That's a really good question there, boss.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm still this blockchain 2.0. Can people invest into that, or are they going to have like an IPO like Ethereum, or is this something that's going to be a set of tokens that's going to be issued when they come out, or is this all in-house, or how does this work? I mean, like, from an investor's perspective, right? Is there anything that I can do to get involved in it other than own bitcoins? And
yeah, so
talk about. But what is it in an investor? Because I'm not a technical person. All I need to know is, hey, basically what's in it for me. Do I invest into it? Do I look into it? Do I preach about it? What is it that they are offering besides their products and services?
Sure. So. Again, this is just based on what I've known from people who I've talked to, and it's public information at this point, is there's one company which is funded by Austin Hill. Again, Austin Hill is this VC. You guys could look him up. He's really active on Twitter. And he's, I don't know how the investment model works with his company. I'm not sure if you could just email and say, hey, I'm an angel. I want to put some, certain amount into it. I don't know how that specific aspect works. I don't think that they will do a public IPO like Ethereum or Mastercoin or some kind of burning like Counterparty did. I think it'll just be a company, and the way that they'll monetize, I'm not quite sure. Maybe they'll license it to enterprises, because ultimately they see themselves as a blockchain company, not as a Bitcoin company. They want to figure a way to, utilize this technology to bring it into enterprises and institutions and help out asset managers and so on. But more to the point, I don't think that there will be necessarily any additional tokens that you could buy on these side chains. Like initially starting off, like Adam Back says he doesn't want to have another scarcity race. So I don't know if maybe if you they create 3 or 4 different side chains. If you want to move a Bitcoin to one of these chains, if that's going to be if there's going to be like a value from like 1 to 1,000. I don't know that breakdown or how that will work. I'll let you know as soon as I do, though.
Okay. And let us know if he's interested in using Nex as the token.
Sure. If I hear anything about that, yeah.
Or if he wants to use Nex to pay all his developers.
Yeah, I will put that down. I'll ask him next time.
Okay. Tim, thanks for joining us. Can you type in the chat your blog or where people can reach out to you or subscribe to some of your material or some of your content?
Sure. Here's my email address. Here is my Twitter. And here's my website. Just for a little disclosure, I actually work in a completely different area. I worked in China for a while, and most of my clients are still in China. I do market research for Chinese companies, basically. So
okay.
I do the crypto stuff because it's a really cool. It racked my brain. I have to think of new things, and everyone's really brilliant and really friendly to me, and they teach me. They're all smarter than me. You guys are all good teachers.